welcome back. Tunisia has seen very little rainfall this summer, resulting in water cuts, dry dams and parched landscapes, a shortage that is raising concerns over the country's water reserves and potential agricultural losses.
The country, which oscillates between Mediterranean and desert climates, has seen very little rainfall this year. Last month, the Ministry of Agriculture said the situation would become catastrophic if there would still be no sign of rain by the end of summer. Residents in poor areas, already marked by sharp social tensions, are stretched to the limit.
We have to buy water tanks for what we use and what our animals use. We've sent out requests to the government, but they remain unanswered. All we can do is wait for rain, God willing.
Tunisia has been long considered one of the countries most affected by water issues. This year, precipitation has dropped by around 30%, one of the worst years for rainfall on record. Repeated droughts have led to agricultural losses of more than 800 million euros in 2016, according to the sector's main union. Since mid-May, the Ministry of Agriculture has reported 700 water shortages nationwide.
We are waiting for rain, otherwise agriculture will be negatively affected. There will also be an impact on investors in the fields of plant nurseries and especially plantations that require large amounts of water.
Rainfall is by far Tunisia's largest source of water, but climate change is causing increasingly strong variations. The country's 30 or so dams are seeing their reserves dry out. In just 1 year, water reserves of the Sidi Salem Dam have gone from 414 million cubic meters to an estimated 203 million, a decrease of some 50%.
We still have a month left of consumption before we get to the strategic reserve. In other words, if there's no rainfall by the end of September and we have no other resources, we will have to use the strategic reserve, and that's a very dangerous situation.
Tunisia's new government says several dam projects blocked since 2011 revolution have been resumed, but only rainfall can help refill existing dams and groundwater reserves. Out of options in the face of persistent droughts, the Ministry of Religious Affairs has called on Tunisians to pray for rain. Via report for ANN7.
Over 4,000 South Sudanese refugees enter Ugandan shores daily following renewed conflict in the country. This is according to a report by the Red Cross. The International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies have launched an emergency appeal to support the Uganda Red Cross Society in assisting 40,000 refugees over the next 6 months with safe water, sanitation, hygiene measures, emergency shelter and health care. Here's a report.
A swathe of countryside in the north of Uganda is gradually turning into a vast refugee camp as hundreds of people every day cross the border from South Sudan after renewed conflict there. The Bidibidi Reception Center in Yumbe district is some 300 kilometers north of Kampala, but not much more than walking distance from the border with South Sudan, where fighting continues between groups loyal to the South Sudanese president and opposition groups. Uganda Red Cross Society volunteers who run the camp say the head count of people who have passed through Bidibidi to date is 57,900, just over a month after it was opened. In mid-August, Bidibidi hosted nearly 9,000 people. The figure has now increased sixfold. At one time, as many as 4,000 people crossed into the camp in a single 24-hour period. The International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies launched an emergency appeal at the end of August with nearly $700,000 to support the Uganda Red Cross Society in assisting 40,000 refugees over the next 6 months with safe water, sanitation, hygiene measures, emergency shelter and health care.
The number of refugees that have passed through this center as of now are 57,900 individuals. And these have passed through this center and they are now settled in various areas of the settlement. Every refugee or family head is entitled to a given plot of land in this settlement.
Many have traveled 400 kilometers from South Sudanese capital Juba. The UN's refugee agency estimated earlier in September that more than 100,000 people have fled South Sudan since renewed fighting broke out in Juba early July. The World Food Programme, meanwhile, is implementing an emergency operation to assist up to 80,000 South Sudanese refugees in northern Uganda. ANN7 Bureau Report.
South Sudan's authorities have shut down a prominent newspaper, The Nation Mirror, after it published details of a report released by a US-based group alleging misuse of state funds by the nation's leaders. Editor Orion's Simon Cholier says the authorities do not give a reason for closing the paper, which has a daily print of about 2,500 copies and a website. But he said it might be linked to the publication of the US Century Report on corruption. The move will add to concerns by rights groups about media freedoms in South Sudan. The authorities have detained journalists and temporarily closed media outlets as the 5-year-old African nation has been convulsed by a civil conflict. There was no immediate government comment, and it was not immediately clear how long the closure would last. Former Congolese rebel commander Bosco Ntaganda says he is ready to die. Ntaganda was addressing the International Criminal Court in The Hague via a video link from the court's detention center. He is facing charges of war crimes and crimes against humanity for atrocities committed by his troops in the Democratic Republic of Congo in 2002 to 2003.
The Democratic Republic of Congo's once feared rebel leader says he is ready to die. Known as the Terminator, Bosco Ntaganda has been on a hunger strike since last week. This in protest against the restrictions on his phone calls and visitation rights, which have been in place since 2004, following concerns that he was attempting to interfere with witnesses.
One must wonder, Mr. President, what is the interest of justice? We have a man who is sitting at the detention center, whether he's self-induced or not. He has not eaten for 7 days. There are no signs that he will resume eating, and we will continue in the courtroom with no accused present, no accused involved.
The 42-year-old was once one of the most wanted fugitives in Africa's Great Lakes region until he unexpectedly turned himself in March 2013. The ICC issued its first sealed arrest warrant against Ntaganda in 2006 for alleged crimes committed in the eastern parts of the Democratic Republic of Congo. But he evaded justice and continued to command troops responsible for atrocities until his surrender in 2013. He was the founder of the M23 rebel group that was defeated by the Congolese government in late 2013 after an 18-month insurgency. Ntaganda faces 13 counts of war crimes and 5 counts of crimes against humanity relating to 2 attacks against the non-Hema population in Congo's Ituri province. The charges include murder, rape, sexual slavery, and the use of child soldiers. Bureau Report, ANN7.
Madagascar's future digital developers are learning how to use computers and the different aspects of computing dynamics. The students have been exploring the digital space for some time now, and with dozens of sessions, they have managed to create a video game. And according to the volunteers aboard Madagascar's coding bus, which gives free classes to children, an ability to code is so essential that those who can't will soon be considered illiterate. Let's take a look.
Twice a week, this bus makes its way across Madagascar's capital, but there are no passengers on board. The real journey starts upon arrival at Ivato City Hall, where young people learn to code. After a dozen lessons, they've already been able to create a computer game.
The ball must touch the pole to score points. If the ball stays on the pole for a long time, the score goes up. But if the ball doesn't stay long, the score only goes up a little bit.
For the past year, volunteers have been teaching basic coding using equipment mostly donated by telecoms company Airtel. For the program's director, knowing how to code has become an essential life skill.
They could become engineers, or if not, there are many other careers being created each year when it comes to new technologies. So they could create a startup that would solve any problem. Or like us, they could also raise awareness, teach others how to code.
14-year-old Tiana sees a bright future for her thanks to what she's been learning on the course.
I don't have a computer at home, but I go to a cyber cafe twice a week. I surf the internet, go on Facebook, and play Need for Speed. When I grow up, I'd like to create something, create computer games, cartoons, and also have a computer.
About 500 children from 5 of the capital's suburbs were able to attend the free course for 3 weeks. The program's volunteers hope coding will soon become part of the country's education system, laying the foundations for a new computer-savvy generation. Bureau Report, ANN7.
Once the pride of Africa's dance scene, Guinea's Ballet's African's troupe has seen its star fall and fade, leaving aging acrobats and singers to train a new generation facing a very uncertain future. Lack of funding has chipped away at the pride and reputation of the dancers.
Tough times for Guinea's most prestigious dance group, Ballet Africans. The once internationally acclaimed dance spectacle is going through a financial crisis, halting it from reaching new frontiers.
When we go to America or even France, no, it's not the same. Here we are not well received. When we go to another country, African ballet, you will see.
The group was created in the early 1950s when a newly independent Guinea began investing heavily in culture. With all the challenges faced in modern days, dancers believe that passion, dedication, and increased work ethic will carry them through.
We are here, we are waiting. Ballet is going strong. We have passion running through our veins, and there is a lot of youth because it's full of young people, as always. They volunteer to do this job.
With dancers eager to perform, the group is set to relaunch and reinvent its craft going forward, and the Guinean government is fully behind them.
Today, this ensemble is ready to relaunch and hit the ground running, because artists having status and once again conquering international show business, something that hasn't been possible for decades, is now a reality.
Like ballet, Guinean dance is physically demanding, but unlike ballet with liquid motions, Guinean dance looks exhausting to those who've barely dabbled in dance world. Even to experienced dancers, it can seem daunting, and the polyrhythmic drum-orientated music that accompanies it doesn't make it seem much friendlier. Bureau Report, ANN7.
And that's all the news making headlines around the African continent for this week. From me, Lesego Mokonane, and the team, thank you for watching. Salani Garsi.